That's right, Gibson finally reissued the Marauder. Let's check it out. Welcome back, Troglodytes, to your daily dose of guitar information, the Trogly's Guitar Show. Even as potentially the target demographic for this guitar, I can't say I was all too excited by the first impressions of this, but we're going to review it today, give it its fair shot, update you on the history just in case you don't understand what a Gibson Marauder even was, and see if this is something worth considering or not. So, first impressions right out of the box. It's incredibly lightweight. That is pretty nice. If you've been looking for something a little bit lighter than your standard Les Paul, even with any type of weight relieving, because these are utilizing poplar bodies, which is generally speaking, not always, but many times, a lighter wood. It's also a little bit thinner. I think that's why they called this the Music City Special, because there was a time period within Gibson's history when a special just meant it was a thinner body guitar. Many times they would equip them with the humbuckers, so kind of a 90s throwback at the same time. And I've got to say, I don't hate the look of this as much in person. That nice glossy finish is pretty cool. But it's a slightly thinner Les Paul with a comfort cut on the back that officially has a Flying V headstock. Let's cover some history. The original Gibson factory was located in Kalamazoo, Michigan. However, during the Norland years of ownership, they opened up a new location in Nashville, Tennessee, also sometimes referred to as the Music City. So to celebrate 50 years of building guitars in Nashville, they decided to go through the history books, find a model that was out in '75 that they hadn't done a reissue for, and revive it with a modern take. And that model that we're talking about is the Gibson Marauder. It originally looked like this. It's a very famous Kiss smashes the factory seconds on stage type thing. And out of all the Norland era models that I thought we could get a reissue of, this is the one that had not happened yet. So I was elated when I first saw it, but you're going to notice original Marauders have these interesting pickup designs. I know it looks like a humbucker single coil, but they're technically both humbuckers, but these were designed to be similar to Telecaster Customs, where they would have a really weird twangy tone to them, which I still think would have been really cool to have on the reissue Bill Lawrence design pickups, but I can totally understand why they decided to change it up a little bit in that aspect. But as far as the body shape, I would actually say this one is like way lighter than my vintage. However, when we're talking about the rest of the spec choices here, you gotta remember the original Marauders are all over the place. What I have here is a mahogany body with a maple neck and fretboard. However, you can check out this episode to learn that you can find maple bodies, you can find alder bodies as well as the mahogany. You can find a maple fretboard option as well as rosewood. Our Tribute model actually comes with ebony, which was not a stock option. Again, that's a modernization, like having two 70s Tribute humbuckers. And we don't have that harmonica bridge, it's a regular Nashville. But it's also important to remember, Gibson's not saying this is the 2025 Gibson Marauder. It's called the Music City Special 50th anniversary celebration. It's just loosely based on the Marauder. But the biggest change between the vintage and this kind of tribute model is it is set neck construction this time. The original Marauder is one of the bolt-on neck guitars of Gibson's history, which when you can pick up an original Marauder for about $800 in player's grade condition, these guys at $17.99, they don't seem to make as much sense. So I think they're relying on that as kind of a, hey, this is a premium feature. But when you compare these to like the 2019 run of the DC Junior and Special tributes, when they were like, $800, $900 new, they look kind of similar. And then we also had the Les Paul Special Tribute humbuckers, which they're not a fully top routed guard. They're still back routed, which most people would see as a more premium feature, and they were a lot less expensive. And that also puts these in the same price range as one of the brand new studios that has binding and fancier inlays, much fancier electronics, with maple tops thrown on them. Most people associate mahogany being a little bit more expensive than poplar. In my opinion, these don't make sense unless you're one of about three people. A, you're like me, you're a 70s guitar freak and you love the original Marauders for their quirkiness, and you just happen to want want one of these in your collection as a comparison piece to say, yeah, Gibson did reissue it, and they changed it up like they do every time they reissue a Norland-era guitar. The second is a person who wants to start a Music City collection, because there was a thing in 2014 called the Music City Junior. Had a B-bender, ash body, maple fretboard. That thing was a lot of fun. And the third is just someone who wants to rock something that's different, because they actually called this a Les Paul. It doesn't say Les Paul on the headstock, but as far as I can think of, I do believe this is the first Les Paul that officially has the Flying V headstock. In a roundabout way. As someone in category 1, what I really wish would have been done with this release that would have made them sell out instantly is stylize these after the very rare Marauder Custom. Not much changes on Marauder Custom, but these are very rare collector's items because they just don't pop up very often. You'll notice, same headstock, same body. This one happens to be maple construction. All that's different is they got a multiply pick guard and they got binding around the fretboard with these small mother of pearl block inlays. I would have been way more hyped had they had outfitted these with a cream binding and put some sort of a small block inlay on it, because then it takes it from, oh, Marauder, I can buy a whole bunch of those rather cheaply, to, oh, okay, technically this is cheaper than finding a vintage Marauder Custom, and then all those other fun things we talked about. But man, despite everything that we have going against this, now that I have this in my hands, I do like the guitar. But they're coming in 3 different colors. A very gorgeous tobacco sunburst. The one we're talking about tonight is a wine red, and then they also have ebony. Now, I was all ready to jump on that sunburst, and looking at many different photos, it seems some of them get a wider burst than others. But I decided to go wine red for one reason and one reason only. You can actually see the wood grain on the back, and it's so gorgeous. Poplar bodies have some interesting grain and color going on. And especially with the maple neck, occasionally you can find the rare figured one. I don't have that today, but that's the reason why I did not go for the tobacco sunburst, even though I think it's the coolest looking from the front. But they're making, get this, 650 of each color. So that's 1,950 guitars. Such a missed opportunity not to do like 25 of them in like a sparkle blue or some other fancy finish. Just to have 1975 of the 1975 release special edition thing. So there we go. There's a lowdown on the history and my own thoughts and preferences on this release. I view it more as a missed opportunity to make something really cool because we were only 2 spec changes away. But time will tell on how well these sell. I certainly can't wait for a mod shop employee to get a hold of one of these and do something fun. But if you do decide to buy one of these, here's what you get. It's the Gibson soft case gig bag type situation. It's nice. It has a neck block in here. It's what you find on the regular Les Paul Studios. Do we get any special case candy? Nope. I was really hoping for a 70s influence strap. That would have been cool. But this appears to have the lowest end package that you get from a Gibson USA. Your basic strap. No multi-tool, just your regular truss rod wrench. And the Allen key for your bridge. Gibson app warranty pamphlet pre-pack checklist. As well as a Gibson polishing cloth. And yes, a blank truss rod cover. I was hoping that would be in there because I don't know about you guys, I don't really like the design of the stock one. And here's the original box tag, simply for historical preservation. But to learn more about this new 2025 release, let's go ahead and throw it onto the workbench to take an individual look at its parts and specs. Alright, now this is when the review gets fun. We can stop comparing it to what it could have been and just appreciate it for what it is, because wait till you guys see what's underneath this pickguard. I was not expecting that. I am even more excited to see what the mod collection guys are going to cook up with these. Because look at that. We have a third humbucker route in there. Now, I wonder if they did that simply to reduce the weight of the guitar just a little bit, as well as give you the option of modifying your instrument even further. Because say you're like me, you don't necessarily want this in your tribute and you would rather have original Marauder pickups. I mean, it looks to me like you could probably fit it. Or you could even turn it into an S1 tribute because, yeah, 3-blade single coil looking like things. But the other really cool thing about this release is Gibson is using non-traditional woods again. Poplar. So we're one step closer to alder, so maybe we will finally see the alder body maple neck 80s Vs and Explorers make a comeback, instead of the mahogany versions that we currently have. And this might be their way of teasing that they're going to do that very soon. But anyways, WR stands for wine red. We can see that plain poplar grain without any finish on it. Then we've got LPMCS for Les Paul Music City Special, and 2025 is our model year. And you can see what kind of route we have over here. I don't think you have much opportunity to modify things. You might have a little bit of room right here if you wanted to put a mini toggle, but otherwise that's pretty eaten up with your toggle switch and volume and tones. As far as our stock pickups, it's the Rhythm 70s Tribute in the neck as well as the 70s Lead in the bridge. So this is the same pickup set that you'll find in the 70s Explorers and Flying Vs that we currently have on the market. So that should make them pretty familiar sounding, but 14.45 K ohms in the bridge, even hotter, 16 in the neck, and the middle position just for fun, 7.72. And something I noticed while plugging this in, hey, very nice quality of life feature. Side output jack. Original Marauders don't have that. Very nice. But those are just regular Gibson branded pots. Looks like 500K to me. So no push-pulls for fanciness. And in fact, those are 2 conductor pickups, so you can't even do that anyways, even if you put it in. Well, without extensive modification. But the knobs they're utilizing are our top hat style, but without any reflectors on it. And it has a black switch tip. And if you notice, our pickguard actually is multi-ply on this. You've actually got 5 layers, starting with black and ending on black with 2 white stripes in between. But for our Nashville style bridge, it's your current day lightweight one made by API. Exact same things are true on our tailpiece. It is also by the same company and lightweight aluminum. As far as the body contour on the top, I'll just let the light dance and show you it. I would say it actually rings very true to the originals. It's just supposed to break the edge of the guitar a little bit, make it a little bit comfier when your arm's resting on it to play. And I've seen some knots in the wood on many of these examples, and that's kind of why I chose this one, because it's a cool characteristic mark. And the other thing you might be noticing, hey, Trogly, you chose that because it's a Spotlight, right? Ugly 3-piece body. It's actually only 2 pieces. You just happen to have a dark streak right where it ends, and then that other one joins on. And it is slightly offset. That's not the reason I chose this one. I chose it because it had the best wood grain on the back. But wine red is definitely a beautiful finish on this model. But if you're curious about thickness, the body at its full depth looks like 1.55 inches. And that same measurement taken right here was 1.6. So a little bit more than 1.5 inches thick. But remember, you got the contours, so it's going to feel even thinner than that. Because not only do you have that right here, but you also have that on the back. So technically our skinniest dimension is a little less than 1 inch. And we can check the other dimensions just for fun. That's 9 on the upper bout. Lower bout, you're just a little shy of 13. And as far as where the body stops and starts, you're about 17.5. But moving on from our 2-piece poplar body, we've got a maple neck with the ebony fretboard. Now it's important to note it's spec'd as striped ebony, so that means you might have some light colored streaks in your board. This one is actually very uniform. However, out of all the ones I've seen produced so far, I've yet to actually see a stripey looking one. And looking in the light, I was like, oh my goodness, does it actually have black binding? It doesn't. That is just the clear coat running up and over the edge a little bit in some areas. I was almost excited, but no, it's not a repeat of those modernized studios. But that said, I would say this board is actually really nice. I don't see too much weird colorations within it. Like when it's striped ebony, a lot of times they're actually dyeing it to make it look more uniform. But without having the binding, they don't have to do as much scraping, so you don't have as many tooling marks. But here's our acrylic dot inlays. If you wanted to enlarge them for small blocks, you just have this issue of the 12th fret. But check out the rolled fret edges. They look pretty nice. And for a Gibson, actually pretty shiny right out of the box. Okay, in this lighting, you can see some of those splotches that we've seen before. It's amazing how your lighting changes everything. Like, I wasn't seeing any of that before. But now we've got a 1.71 inch nut width. Creases to 2.09 at the 12th. 0.82 first fret neck depth. 0.9 at the 12th. So yeah, that is pretty skinny. Still a C shape, but it's not a super full. It's more of a slimmer C. So it's got a little bit of a flatness to the back, but not a lot. Here's a look at that neck profile at the first fret and the 12th fret. You can see what I was talking about. Definitely C-shaped, but very slim on the back. And we've got a 12-inch fretboard radius paired with a 24 3/4 inch scale. As far as our headstock, yes, it is Flying V inspired. This looks exactly like what they were using on the 80s Flying Vs. I think they just programmed their CNC machines to duplicate what they're using there. But then we have our Gibson decal for our logo, and they put mini Grover tuners on here. But here is visual confirmation of our maple neck underneath our truss rod cover. And I would like to clarify my previous thoughts. I think this design is beautiful and attractive. It's just a bit busy for a truss rod cover that has nothing else to distract from it. I think this would have looked better as like etched on our pick guard right there, or do like what Fender does and have a little sticker that they just place right there and then just had a blank one to start with. But I do like that they tried, you know, give this some sort of a special feature. But now that we've got it all strung back up, the only other thing I thought I would mention is a lot of these screws on the pick guard were actually over tightened from the factory. Now that doesn't mean completely stripped out they're going to fall off. That just means they never stop turning when you go to reinstall it, and that's using the original threads within the body. But now let's move on to the back. So, not gonna lie, when I picked this one out, I was fully expecting this to have like a chatoyant movement to it. But no, it's just wood grain. So, maybe don't go too crazy finding an exotic one, or go into it with managed expectations. I think what I would really like to find for a personal collection one would be one of those wood grain lottery winners that just has a magnificently figured neck. I mean, with 650 in wine red finish alone, surely one of those was special. So keep in mind if you happen to see one of those. But oh, what is this? Some weird circle scratches in it. That looks like a grounding wire or something that this was sat on. Yeah, it's pretty mild, all things considered. But here you can see just how thin that body is. So if you were looking for a slimmer Les Paul style design, I think you would like this. Like, it really is a nice guitar. I just don't know about the whole price of it as compared to other things you can get. But here's a feature you might not have noticed. It actually comes stock with the 80s style diamond posi locks. While not era correct, I think they just threw them on there to be fun. And I appreciate that. Similar to what you would find on the Adam Jones. And I also want to compliment Gibson for installing them correctly now. When they first started putting these on, they did it sideways. Maybe that's so people could see that it was different in the photos. But the way they work is up and down to lock your strap into place. And we've got the rectangular output jack plate here with our nice deep comfort cut. But here's the back of our maple neck. It is one piece. Now, you do have the headstock wings, which I was curious if they would make those out of maple as well, or if they would put mahogany, but it looks like they are utilizing maple. But you can see our serial number dates this one to the 112th day of 2025. Initial batch production number 333s made in USA. And you can see they went for the mini Grovers. I've got kind of big hands. I don't like the small buttons. I would have rather had big sized ones, but I get it. They're trying to prevent neck dive, which is important on a model like an SG. And to be fair, I've seen these things range from like 6 to 8 pounds. So there is a little bit of fluctuation. So make sure you check that if that's important to you. All said and done, my particular review piece is right in the middle there at 6 pounds, 10.8 ounces. So let's go ahead and plug it in and hear how it sounds. Now before we plug it in, let's get an acoustic tone test. The best way to describe this is, it's rather muted sounding. Now think of an acoustic guitar, how they have that sound hole. Sometimes that's how I felt about the original Marauders. They had a very unique tone due to the plastic covered pick guard. However, this is a really resonant guitar. The neck is vibrating so much my hand is slightly numb right now. So call that a good or a bad thing. I'm actually digging it because it's so lightweight too. But now our electric tones. neck pickup is ridiculously dark. Not a big fan of that. In contrast though, that bridge pickup, I guess it does have a certain darkness to it too, but it's a little bit more attacking. I mean, you gotta remember, this is the clean channel, and that sounds like crunchy dirt. Middle position? Is it weird I'm liking that one the best because it reminds me of the originals? Let's try rolling the volume down a little bit, see if that helps anything. A little bit. But overall, just a very dark sounding guitar. Maybe that sounds good with distortion. Let's find out. So there we go. I tried the new Music City special. What are my honest final thoughts on this? It's one of the few Gibsons I honestly would not suggest. I don't think it's worth the price. Now, as far as the guitar, it plays nice. It's got the whole resonancy thing going in spades, but I didn't personally like the 70s tribute humbuckers. I thought they were too dark for my own playing preferences. Now, when I started to treat this a little bit more like an Explorer and go through the 80s music, I thought it was actually sounding pretty decent. Like maybe you could EQ your amp a little bit differently. I'm running through a Marshall Blues Breaker with a Red Rocks pedal currently. And at that point, I was getting a little bit inspired with this. But for regular sounding music, I did not care for this pickup set. But at least since we tore this thing apart, we know you've got as many options as you want in here, pretty much. So if you can ever get one of these used at a nice deal, don't be scared to modify. In fact, I'm very tempted to modify this because I think it is a great platform. I just didn't necessarily like how it was spec'd directly from the factory. So I hope this review was helpful for you to decide whether one of these is right for you or not. At the end of the day, that's just my opinion on the model. Will I still buy one of these eventually for my collection? If I can find the right color and wood grain combination, probably. But alright, Troglodytes, I hope you found this helpful, and we'll catch you guys tomorrow on the next one. Take care.